Hello, Nisha. Hello.
Hi.
So you're back in Chirating. How's your trip?
Yes, we're back here.
Yeah.
It's not bad. We stopped.
Yeah.
We stopped over in. I think we took a slow drive back. We stopped over in Pekan and we
Mm.
explored a little bit of the town, which is very interesting. And I saw a really mature water monitor lizard. Yeah, I have a thing about
How
spotting
big is
water
that?
monitor.
How big would
It's
that be?
like the size of a medium-sized crocodile.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
I've seen those.
5 foot high. Yeah,
Yeah,
5 foot in length.
they're kind of scary. Like 6 to 8 foot long. Yeah.
Yeah. It's literally like you're seeing a crocodile that can pull off a cat or a dog, and like yeah,
Yeah.
that's a mean. Yeah, it was right
Okay.
in the city as well, so it was quite interesting. It's nice to see mature wildlife in the city, but at the same time, it's a double-edged coin, double-sided coin, because you feel like it can't sustain life forever, or it will be seen as a threat and someone's gonna kill it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the
Yeah.
only thing about when I see something and I immediately these two things will hit me, no?
Yeah.
Someone's gonna see it as a threat, or it's just gonna run out of food source and or get run over by something and become roadkill.
Right.
So yeah.
So we had a really productive weekend. Apart from the edible education, which we talked about at our last podcast.
Yeah.
We also sat down and did a lot of work on our platform content. And that's what
Mm.
I've been following up on this week. I've been working with uh, Samala today and then some new volunteer Susan who will come on board and help us with that. So looking
Right.
good. Uh, so, and I've been sort of uh, filling out the curriculum for our nature class, which is sort of the next phase of what we want to do. And in a way, I want to just take a little break away from that. And what we're going to talk about today is the notion of actually trends in the context of how they will trends that will affect sustainability, which I think is quite interesting.
Okay.
Um, this is a business I was in, so this is something
Mm.
I studied quite extensively,
Mm.
and so I'm going to look at sort of two areas of trends. One of them, which will be interesting because it's really more your lane, which is an article that I read, which I'll link below, called "The Electric Slide,"
Yeah.
and it talks about the beginning of a new electric era, and it kind of took me by surprise because it's not something I was really thinking about,
Mm.
and it's really about how electricity is becoming the new energy model. So, with solar, with
Yeah.
batteries, and the battery electric related.
Yeah.
I saw this stove on Pixar or something, and it was like pretty amazing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
just to go back to this electric slide thing.
Yeah.
So the thing that really it's kind of blown my mind a little bit is actually how it's changing the notion of who's going to win geopolitically uh, in 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 the exploration of these trends. And it's talking about how the U.S. has always invested on innovation and
Yeah.
uh, things like that, but it looks as if China is catching up in the realm of activation.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. Mm.
so they are responding to the price and the ability to actually bring this to market a lot faster, which I understand from a fashion point of view. That's what they've always done. They've always been the country that does that. Fashion
Yeah.
might be interesting coming out of Europe, uh, but once China figures out what to do in partnership with an American company who's funding it, uh, connecting it to a large market like America. But nowadays, the new markets of China and India,
Yep.
we might see substantial changes in this. So, did
Yep.
you get a chance to look at that article?
I did. I did. I think
What are your thoughts
there are
about it?
few things that I feel is not new if you've been like, reading about like just technology, because I came from Accenture, right? And I remember early in the early day, I mean, early for me when I started my career at that time, I think there was, and Accenture's an American company. And when it was looking at where it's going to place its talent development center, which was what I was part of, the conversation was, do we move to India or do we move to China? Because these were the
Right.
emerging markets where talent training was meant to be the hotbed, because that's
Yeah.
where talent was going to come from. And that was also where technology and access to new technology was going to come from. And then I think very quickly it was decided that China was going to be the place to go. And
Okay, you're freezing up.
2000. Okay,
Yeah.
we're back now, right? So we moved to China.
Mm.
Accenture moved its training center to China, and the reason why they did that was the basis that China would do not just horizontal integration, which means it would have a lot more competition in consulting space, but it would
Mm.
also go vertical, meaning that it will not just talk about consulting. It would design better systems. That means architecture of technology. It will also demand new things because it will be at the cutting edge of what's possible to be done. And then it was all the other pieces that would lay on top horizontally to get you to new technology and new frameworks. So that was why Accenture as a tech company really, or technology business consulting company, moved to China. And for
So
me,
when
I
was
mean,
this? When was
this was
this?
2006.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
And so
so
they were looking at this, yeah, way out there.
fast forward to today, we have new problems, which is Trump's America. Uh, I
But
used to,
Trump too.
my first round of working in the US was on an H-1 visa, and then I converted to an O-1 visa. So now he's
Mm,
made H-1 visas really expensive. It's 100.
yeah.
It's like new H-1 visas, 100,000. So it's going to be people are not going to do it anymore. Or companies are not going to be able to afford it
He'll get
anymore.
what he wants. He'll get what he wants. Basically, he's making America irrelevant
Yeah, yeah. That is actually part of a
because,
problem because they are China becomes geopolitically stronger. You know
yeah,
because of this. So apart from that, there's also the whole tariff situation,
yes,
and there's also a talent situation. Chinese scientists are leaving the US and going back to China.
yes. I was going to say that. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think so my godfather, he's passed away now. He used to be part of Ericsson, which is a Swedish technology company. And he was quite up there in the leadership. And I think one of his last roles was the country lead for Vietnam. And at that time, their biggest competitor was Huawei. Although it's Korean, it was building a lot of its tech out of Korea and China. And so, Ericsson relies a lot on its American partners and its European technology teams. But they were building it faster, they were building it cheaper, they were building like they were prototyping a lot more things. And you know
Yeah,
how
yeah,
Indian technology is all about 7 generations of technology? They were doing that. They were
right.
doing that because they had this hunger to leapfrog out of the shadow of the US and the English speaking world.
Yeah.
And they were just gunning it. And I think it is part of when if you think of an explorer, right? The explorer with the less intelligent tools will be dependent only on what they can see and feel. But as soon as you had the telescope, as soon as you had the microscope, as soon as you could draw maps and you could explain to someone directionally how something was happening, you got to see big changes in the way science was being transmitted and
Mhm.
documented and recognized as this is the truth about the world, you know. And there was a book, I can't remember the name. I will tell you the name and you can put it in the post later.
Okay.
It talked about how, because I studied materiality as an engineer,
Oh,
and
cool.
really
Okay.
it comes back to the point, right, that nothing in the world moved forward until sand was turned into glass.
Right, right.
As soon as you could turn sand into glass, you had reading spectacles. Older people could read stuff. Therefore, knowledge transmission was not purely oral. It started going into writing. You know,
Mm,
as soon as you could make glass, you could condense it for convex and concave lenses. You could make those telescopes and microscopes. A lot of things actually came out of ancient countries like China and India and Egypt, and and it's
yeah,
really amazing that we are seeing that cycle come back into its, the top of the
right,
cycle.
right. Yeah.
So I think there's a
Actually, just
lot.
on that point, I just want to separate two pathways. One is there's also the technological change. You know, there's things that are
Yeah.
just moving very quickly, and we're
Yeah.
seeing things happen very quickly. And just recently, and maybe I'll put that link here too. I just saw a review by Marcus Brownlee, who's like a big tech. He's got a big tech YouTube channel, and he says how is it Meta? Yeah, Meta sent him the new production prototype of a smart glass, which actually they had previewed with him only 10 months ago. And at that point, the working cost of it was 10,000 US dollars. And it was like really heavy and, it
Yeah.
wasn't sort of fine tuned. Now it's fine tuned. It's ready to go to the market at $800. And apparently it's pretty amazing.
Quite
So,
accessible at 800 ringgit. Oh, dollars.
right?
Yeah. Very
Yeah.
accessible.
So there's that. There's a technological thing. We went out to the malls and I was looking at the robot vacuums.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, I remember when I first saw them and they were thousands of ringgit,
Yeah.
and now there's one for 600 ringgit. So I'm close to buying one.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, so there's a technology thing. And then obviously there's a price related to that. If it's become
Yep.
600 ringgit,
Yep.
the uptake is different, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then add to that, which is what we started off talking about, is once you now add a energy cost, if it's moving into solar and battery, and that shift in the
Yeah.
price of using it is shifting. I mean, the rapidity of this is going to be really quite serious.
Yeah.
Yeah. I struggle sometimes. I worry about China. I've worked with China.
Mm.
Um, what do you think of India? Like, why didn't you guys go to India?
Because they looked at, in terms of, I think one of the key drivers was that Indians were easier to mobilize.
Okay.
Like you could take an Indian out of India and put them anywhere and they would be able to do the job with not as much training because the language wasn't a
Language is
barrier.
different. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you can plug and play in
Same in
India,
fashion. The
Yeah, it was
Indian,
literally plug
it's
and play.
easier to work with
But if you
India.
took a
Yeah.
Chinese person and you move them out, communication would have been a bigger barrier when they could have been, their resource opportunity was manufacturing. As opposed to India, manufacturing would have been more challenging, especially if it was technology based, because a lot of areas were already densely populated. Compared to China, you still had a lot of available space and available resources. And the functionality of a more communist type, nation thinking compared to India, where it's a bit more politically divided from the north and the south, and then the religious divide. So it had a lot more social collapse risk compared to China. Yeah.
Mm.
But that's what I remember from 2 decades ago.
So now bringing that up to speed, India is looking for America. It's um, a better bet for them. Like Apple is moving it as much as they can into India.
All the heads of
Um,
these organizations are
yeah,
Indian.
and the same thing with talent. I mean, a lot of the talent in Silicon Valley is both Chinese and Indian. You know, So it'll be very interesting to see just I think in the next 5 to 10 years, like how all this plays out, you know, and also how we in Malaysia and Southeast Asia interact with China and India
Yeah.
and the US. You know, it's like it's a game that's going to
We're the hybrid
change.
children. We're the
Right?
hybrid
What?
children. We get along with both sides. So
I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. But
Um.
actually, there's a lot of talent within the Middle East as well. Like when I was studying, I knew a lot of PhD candidates who were like Bahrainian and Iranian and Egyptian, and these countries had a lot of good talent. It's just that they were politically in an uncomfortable situation with like the global north. So I would say politics will change and you will see a lot of these shifts. And I mean, the big guys are always going to be the big guys, like Russia. Russia's got so much technology that we don't even know about because we can't read it. It's not in English. You know, we are just so comfortable with exploring things in a language we are used to. But I think if you deep dive, like in Russian, I think you'll find some cool stuff.
So. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then now not to pull it back into the sustainability space. This shift in electric impacts things like public transportation. You know, electric trains and electric subways. And so then the game is who's getting that right, you know?
Yeah.
And
It's about modeling, isn't it?
Singa- when Sing- and China is also winning. They have built more trains than the US has, right?
Faster as well.
Malay- Malaysia is really slow on the uptake on this, right? Like this whole
I have comments. I'm afraid to be cancelled, but
I mean, I came back in 2010, and this is something that I've been looking at, and
yeah.
the promise of this thing has just has remained. I mean, it's starting to happen. It's sort of happening, but
Mm,
Johor Bahru still doesn't have a public transport system. You know,
mm,
it
yeah.
has little sparks of, oh yeah, there's some electric buses now. Oh yeah, the MRT is going to happen next year. That's
Really
to
new with
Singapore.
all this like fringe technology.
Yeah, it's not like this sort of very intentional move where everybody can get really excited about it. You can plan for it, you
yeah.
know. So so
Was
there's
there
public
a national initiative for high speed rail Johor to Thailand?
KL,
It,
KL.
only to KL, and then KL you change and then you go up north with the
Yeah, yeah,
ECRL.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But to me the bigger deal is actually Singapore to JB, and then
Yeah.
I mean that's going to change quite a few things economically and actually how people move here as well. You know. So that's quite interesting. Then outside of public transport, there's actually transport. We're such a car-centric nation. Will it convert to an electric car? I mean, things have changed fundamentally in the last couple of years with China electric cars. You were just telling me something interesting earlier on. What were you saying about BYD?
So BYD has a lot of demand in Canada, and they can't get all the manufacturing, the rights to manufacture, the paperwork for the land. So they just shift it over. They built a BYD ship. They put BYD vehicles in the ship. They shipped it to Canada, and the BYD cars were autonomously driving off the. They were made fully finished, and they self drove off the rig.
Wow.
So I think that's scary. That felt, just watching it felt like they were being colonized.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the rate of completion is so high. Yeah.
There's another analogy to fashion because when fast fashions started, with Forever 21 and all that
Yeah. Mm.
stuff. One of the things they did was they actually put machinists on the boats, on the ships coming, and they were sewing on that 2 month or that 1 month journey. Uh, I think no, it was not. It was not China. It was actually Europe. Was it Zara? I think it was Zara who had machinists on the ships sewing. So by the time they reached America, the clothes, they were done.
Finished.
Yeah. Um.
There you go.
Yeah.
All ideas refreshed.
Okay. So cars. We will see whether we turn into a more electric car environment. I would I would probably be more interested in an electric bike kind of thing. I might consider using
Right.
it, you know, which I don't. Because Jawbara
I
actually
think
is
my
hilly.
only hesitation with bikes in Malaysia is the roads are very unsafe for a two-wheel vehicle and
It
other
is, it
drivers.
is. Yeah, yeah. In fact, my brother-in-law, who is emergency medicine specialist, uh, he says don't ever get on a motorbike. He, he says all I see is motorbikes. People with head injuries and deaths and stuff like that. It's actually a big deal. A lot of people die on motorbikes. Okay, you're freezing. Okay, you're totally frozen.
I said,
You're totally
I can't hear
frozen.
you. I can't see you. Okay, can you see me now?
I can see, but you're frozen.
Oh, still frozen. Okay, we can talk it out. Yeah, I think
Okay.
Malaysia not it's not just the driver attitude. It's also the roadway. The roadways are not. Uh, they're not ideal. Yeah, yeah.
Our auto
Those are
depth
my
is
two.
very high. It's like globally high.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
We're
got that
very.
scholarship to go to Japan. It was sponsored by Traffic Safety Japan under
Oh,
Honda. And yeah, one of the things that we're supposed to do when we come back to Malaysia is to run a community project to raise awareness about traffic safety. So IATS is the name of the course. And we did a program called Cycle Safe. And at that time, MRT had just started their services in TTTI, where I used to live. And the O Bikes, which was a bike rental program, was available at all the train stations. So it should solve like last mile mobility. And most people didn't borrow the bike. So the bikes were being utilized by the foreign workers because that was a free, not free, like they had to pay a certain amount of money to get a bicycle, to lease the bicycle. So from point to point. And at any point, you'll find another bike and then you just tag on and then you get to go to whatever distance you want. And so what we did was we worked with Obike and the municipal council, which is DBKL, to raise awareness on last mile mobility. So we did a lot of interviews with like MyROS, which is the Malaysian Agency for Safety, Road Safety. And then we did DBKL to talk about like a car free day. And one of the things that we realized was people just didn't want to be outside because it was dangerous. They just didn't want to be on the sidewalk because it was dangerous. And the disconnect between an area that has a bicycle lane to the area that doesn't have a bicycle lane, and where the pavement has not been synchronized between ramping up and being on
that's
the
a
main road.
that's a great point because that's something that affects a related topic. The great I wrote that piece about the great outdoors, that how people just don't want to go outside. And there are multiple factors. One is, especially in Malaysia, we have not designed it to be
Friendly.
unlike Singapore. Singapore
Yeah.
has covered walkways. There's now actually an increase in underground stuff. I just read recently as well, which is something that happens in the West. Like in
Right.
Toronto, that you can walk for miles underground in winter.
Oh yes. Singapore has
Yeah,
it. So if you get to a mall and then you want to go to a train station, a
yeah,
lot of it is underground, and it
yeah,
is
yeah,
like Japan really.
yeah,
It's totally walkable. It's quite easy to read. I mean, it's in English.
yeah.
It's easy for us to navigate.
That's not the
Yeah.
case here.
Japan definitely
That's
underground. Yeah.
that's not the case here. It's really, really difficult to navigate. And if you're an old, if you're older, I've twisted my ankle here. I don't know how many times because it's such hostile terrain. there's broken drains. It's
You can't
really
become blue tone like that.
you can't. Yeah, and then the connection thing. I remember in KL, on paper, like the signage is you change the train here and go to the other train, but in reality, you actually have to. This was when KL, what is it? Central Station was being built.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You had to freaking leave the building with no signage whatsoever, cross like a building site. I
Yeah,
had to
yeah,
ask
yeah.
like
New Central
five.
wasn't built yet at the time. Yeah.
I had
This is
to ask
monorail to the
five
train. Yeah.
five different people how to do this, and one of them go this way, another one will go this way. It's like it was a nightmare. It was just
I lived in Bukit Damansara for a bit before I came out to Cherating, right?
yeah, yeah,
And they were building the pavilion Bukit Damansara at the time.
okay,
And I literally, for a year, going to work in Desa Park City, had to cross the 4-lane road to get to the
yeah,
MRT station. There was
crazy,
no walkway. And that's how I got my cat Bean, because I was crossing that big highway and I heard a kitten and I rescued it, and he's here with me now 2 years later.
yeah.
Crossing highways
So,
to get to work.
so in a way, just to add a little sort of a footnote on this is technology requires information technology. It's like you really have to get your
Communication technology,
communication,
when you
communication. I mean, yeah,
people. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And that's the thing, right? When you think about why nature education, nature ed, which is what we are working
yeah,
on, is not transcending, is
yeah,
because you have all these. If you look at the stack, right? So it's access to the outdoors. How many people actually spend time outdoors? So they like outdoors, they feel risky outdoors, they feel comfortable outdoors, they feel enjoyment outdoors. All of that is just part of access. Then you go down that stack and you have the knowledge about the outdoors. How do you use this outdoor space, right? Because most people don't know how to use these spaces, and they destroy a lot of stuff, and then it just goes to crap. And then you have your how to say, school based access to what is nature and outdoors. So you learn biology, you learn ecology, you have environmental sciences, you are a scout, so you go outdoors under a someone cares for you, someone technically brings you through being outdoors. And then you have informal learning, which is like when your parents bring you to the museum, when you do nature classes with people like us, which is enrichment, or when you go to how to say, an event, and that event is say a dance, but it's inspired by nature. You're seeing people using nature as a muse. And then reading, if you read the books that you've just published a list of books to read which have nature inclination expressions, and all these things build that stack of informal learning. And then you have tech integration. We were talking about iNaturalist and how you can go and you can like not know a plant or an insect, and you can take a photograph, and that tells you, oh, this is the scientific name, this is where it's found.
sure.
And so VR, AR are currently becoming like the new informal learning space, because you can put on the VR glasses and you can scan an area, and it will tell you geographically, in this area these are the historical animals that exist. And I think someone published a map of New York, and the animals that roam New York back in, like, 100 years ago. And I think that was amazing, but I just couldn't have access to it because you have to be of a resident of a certain place to have access to that map at that time. I've not gone back to revisit it, but I think, wow, that's amazing.
Actually,
You
even
know?
something like Google Lens. I mean, when I first came back, and I mean, I've been gardening in a cool temperate country, and I wasn't as informed about tropical. So at that point in time, you had to buy a book, ten
Yeah,
thousand
yeah,
Singapore,
yeah,
and
yeah,
you had
yeah.
to buy like the new edition to get all
The
the.
NPOPs book. Yeah, 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 yeah. I think any good gardener
I
has it.
haven't looked at that. I haven't looked at that book for I don't know 8 years. I think maybe because
Yeah,
Google Lens does the job now.
yeah,
Very
yeah, yeah.
quickly, I can figure out what a plant is and
But
stuff like that.
that is knowledge being applied into technology.
Yeah, yeah,
The database has been applied into technology.
yeah,
And I think Malaysia, as part of ASEAN, had the opportunity to offer a database called MyBees, Malaysian
yeah. I know
Biodiversity
that.
System.
Yeah,
And it was really smart. It came out, I think, in 2018. We won an award for that. But guess what?
Mm.
We built it and then we sat on it.
But that's another problem.
That's
People,
much sense.
there's not enough content about these things that people don't know about these things.
When I
Sometimes I
published
find them
Rimba,
I find them by accident. I'm Googling something and then, oh, that's how maybe I found my biz. You know,
yeah.
there isn't
So when
enough
I was creating
content.
Rimba, yeah,
There's not enough content in a related space. Like somewhere I would go to regularly and it would say, hey, like there is for tech. Like now there's Sawyer Chinchao, which I will
yeah,
sometimes
yeah,
go there and just to catch up with what's going on. There isn't that
yeah,
for
yeah,
sustainability or these kind of things for you to say, oh, there's this new resource you can get and whatever. And there's no, and the other thing that something like Sawyer Chinchao does is it ranks them. This is better than that. This is,
yeah.
so now you're dealing with all these competing systems and you don't really, really,
Yes.
really know how to utilize them. Like iNaturalist, I find a little difficult to use. A
Mm.
little.
Yeah,
I'd
it's
much
very
rather
iffy on
use
the photograph. Yeah,
yeah,
it doesn't.
Google Lens is much more friendly,
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then what did you show the kids the other day? That was something else as well.
It's called Seek, SEEK. But it is a subsidiary of iNaturalist.
Oh,
So it's
but
the
it's an
same
app.
system. It's an app. Yeah, it's an app.
So what differentiates it from iNaturalist?
I think it was made for like younger kids, so it has a lot more like
Oh,
gamified processes. So like if I turn it on here in interacting, it will tell me when I last logged on, and it will tell me what are the animals and insects or birds that I would have seen in the last couple of months, that I have taken a photograph of or I searched. So it will compile it and say like you've completed the backyard challenge or something like that, or it'll give you a
okay.
challenge. You can see, you can participate in a challenge. Like it will tell you like, oh, these are the things that exist in this area. So as soon as you identify like 5 insects or 10 birds or whatever it is on the list, then you're done with that challenge, and then you go to the next challenge. So it's kind of gamified for you to keep seeking new things, you know. So I think that is the way forward. It is creating information in a gamified bite size form, so that you can take it out of formal curriculum. I mean, we still need to have curriculum in schools, which is formal, that talks about
Hmm.
like climate change, bigger issues. But those issues need to be linked to on the ground situations. So if you don't know about Malaysia's monsoon, so the monsoon's coming, we already starting to feel it. Now is about like 5:40, 5 o'clock, something like that. And it's starting to, get dark because it's starting to get ready for rain. It didn't rain yesterday, it rained today. So as like how people have contractions before they give birth, that's how we wait for the monsoon. The rains just come more frequently, they last
Oh wow.
longer, and then it's like
Okay.
monsoon for like 4 months. So it's the same. And you look at these systems, these patterns, you look at these patterns of systems, it's the same. Giving birth, monsoon arrival, monsoon departure. It's like as soon as the baby's born, no more rain. It just stops. It gets hot. It's Chinese New Year. So,
Yeah.
it's quite
Uh,
quite amazing.
so also, so we have been, I've been doing this 10 quick guides to things because I think that's also missing. People just don't have a basic idea of how to navigate an
That's the bare
idea
bones
or a
right.
category, right? And now we are moving into this notion of glossaries, right? So I did
Yeah.
one for 2020 local flora
Hmm.
to help, like for a gardener, it's like, let me have some ideas about what are better
How
choices
do you?
that are
Yeah.
local, what is native. And you
Yeah.
started work here on your 30 endangered animals. So
Yeah.
it starts to have an understanding of
Yeah.
what is Malaysian, what is under threat, what is,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff, and so that needs to be, so that's something that we're working on. We're building
Yeah.
more information that is
Yeah.
sort of tiered. I think there's one just for a parent to take on a walk with a kid of 10 local birds and 10 local wildflowers. And then there's a slightly deeper dive, you know,
So if
and
we look
then,
at
and
that in
then,
terms
and
of stacking environmental education, what you and I are doing, we are investing in
yeah,
the infrastructure on nature education. we are
Yeah.
taking time out of our day, of our life, to make these resources that we have analyzed and filtered to
Yeah.
contextualize it for this region,
Yeah.
for our country. So this kind of tech investment, like infrastructure investment. So there's the MyBiz, which is formal, and then we are considered informal, and it can
Yeah.
happen through anyone. Like a coffee shop doing coffee education, where coffee is coming from. How Johor coffee was, really the powerhouse of coffee in the 80s. And now that Johor coffee now has either declined or has gone up the supply chain. So people working in the nature like resource space, developing content about nature resources, is creating that stack. So we are vertically
Yeah.
integrated. Yeah.
Yeah. And then even at a high level, even at an academic textbook level, there is not enough pointers. You actually need way guides to direct you because these things are expensive. Like which one should you buy?
Yeah.
Which
Yes. Yes.
which ones are free?
Yeah.
There's actually quite a fascinating um thing to understand how to actually access info in our information age. So how do we
Yes.
navigate information?
There's over
It's
communication, but
yeah,
then the quality of it is not identified. So, like you were saying, Soya Chinchao would be like a filter, a newsletter
yeah,
that filters things. I think Makaranga is the closest for Malaysia. Makaranga is
sure,
like
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
the news
It
portal.
does,
So that's
okay, so that's an interesting thing. It's also like something like Makaranga. It leans towards like larger environmental
socio-political.
issues and problem, not to here's how to thrive with the new tools to actually navigate sustainability. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
Which
so
I'm more,
really, I find it very hard to read. I mean, they're really intellectual and they're really smart things. I have no
yeah,
issues with their content. I just
yeah,
find it depressing. I
yeah,
find
yeah,
that
yeah, exactly.
part of
Yeah,
my deep ecology, like if I know so much, then I don't know what to do with it. I really
yeah,
don't know what to do with it
yeah,
because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not in a position where I can change it. I'm not
Sure.
in a position where I can raise the awareness to
Yeah,
create alternatives either. So
yeah.
I'm shy to say
No,
that
it's
I
interesting
avoid
because
reading
that's
it
how
because
we've
I don't know what to do with it.
that's
Yeah.
interesting because that's how we're formulating our lane. Because remember we went
Yeah.
to that climate change week
Oh
and
my
there were these
god.
there were these talks about how these small islands are under threat. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry about that, but can I just figure
Yeah,
out how
it's
we
an
deal?
issue.
How, can we just deal with where we live in our cities? Because we have huge problems here too. It's
No, but
like,
I think the importance of that is to think global and act local. So you see, I mean, honestly, we're just everybody living on a ball of dirt, tumbling through this, outer space, right?
yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we're doing, right? Sun, and we're just doing that, right? So,
yeah,
but we don't see ourselves as mankind. We see ourselves as Malaysians, as an Indian, as a Malay. So we've not got to the point where we are looking at planet Earth as a system, and within that system and that shared atmosphere, we have all this uniqueness because we are sitting on a different part of that ball of dirt. And I think once we get over ourselves and realize that these things need to happen like together, and that's the reason why these conferences do that. They bring people from all around so that you
yeah, yeah,
hear
yeah,
other people's stories and you go, hey, it's happening here during, like, I honestly, touch wood, I hope it doesn't happen because of deforestation and I say uncontrolled deforestation and unreplanted forest. As the rains come in the monsoon, you're gonna get massive landslides. You're gonna get massive flooding, and so when I'm just bracing myself because I'm in Cherating, I'm 1.5 hours away from a flood zone, like a massive flood zone. You know, Kelantan Terengganu, those people, yeah, they're gonna be
mm,
having massive floods. Sabah Sarawak, they're gonna be having floods because development's happening. There's no cap to it. There's no safeguards for the people during the season. So yeah, I'm quite nervous about the
yeah.
monsoon. I
Oh,
have gone out, yeah, to
and
do
another
rescue
issue,
missions period.
is actually just the quality of the information. Like even at this curated event. Remember, we went to one. I won't mention the name of it. How it was how
It's boring.
incredibly. how incredibly poor quality it was. The guy was
Yep.
talking nonsense. Do you remember we were almost laughing?
Yes, yes,
Remember that
yes,
guy
yes. It
was
was
talking
so
about
old. Yeah.
putting
But
throwing your vitamin pills in your garden just in
yeah.
case. Oh my goodness! I was like,
And he was
this
Malaysian.
is,
He was a deputy minister or something, right?
it
He
was
was like, yeah, it
insane.
was really bad. Yeah. And I met this guy yesterday, the day before. And he works for a company in Malaysia that is test bedding pyrotechnology at a large
Mhm.
scale. So
What's that? What's
and in
pyrotechnology?
nano so pyrolysis is to combust something, is to burn
Oh,
something.
okay, okay, yeah, yeah,
But the problem with just burning it with just heat is that it burns from the outside and then it doesn't burn on the inside. So
okay.
after your burn time is up, you may still have uncombusted material. Number one, number two, um, you get a lot of smoke and a lot of so it's incomplete incineration, right? So what you would do for like oh my god, the term is biochar, is you get
Right,
syngas, right? So then
yeah,
you take that syngas and then you can use syngas.
yeah.
So what they're
But
working on right
isn't
now,
the solution because I remember Gardens by the way they did this. It was quite
yeah,
interesting. I
that's
remember
it.
it. You
So
know,
that's old
in a
technology.
enclosed environment,
Yes, so that's old
and
technology.
use the fact that we have a lot of waste. We actually have a lot of botanical waste here
Yep.
that is emanated.
So also the other thing is your feed, right? If your feed is pure, that means everything is like woody material.
Mm,
Doing pyrolysis directly for that to get syngas, very easy. You get charcoal, you put it back in the system, you have a full single loop, right?
mm.
But when you're looking at municipal waste and you're looking at industrial waste and all these types of waste put in together, you have different density of material, right? So then when you combust, you get a lot of ash and a lot of off materials. So the technology they're working on is plasma technology so that it burns from the inside out. So
Oh,
this
okay.
technology also produces a lot of heat. When it produces a lot of heat, then you have a lot of environmental impact because then you have to have water to cool the system, and then where does the hot water go to cool off and come back in? And this was the issue with in Japan. Was that the one that got the plant that got hit by the tsunami? So they were
The
the
nuclear
nuclear
plant.
plant. Yes, they were right on the beach because they use seawater to cool the nuclear plant.
Oh,
Then you have all these other like stacks of issues, right? So with good pyrolysis, new pyrolysis technology, which is being like spearheaded out in the Netherlands, a lot of things will shift and a lot of things will change.
mm.
And I am so happy that it's in Malaysia, but it's under communicated. Nobody knows about it. Maybe because it's too new yet. We don't have the golden stamp that says we won an award. But you know what?
Yeah,
The award,
I think
just
that's
get
an
it done.
issue because without that kind of content, so the digestion of this kind of content,
Yep.
we actually don't build the kind of desire that manipulates markets. Like people,
Yep.
like you wanting the next phone is built
Mm-hmm.
on a kind of careful build of content, right? There's a lot of information about what's going to be the next phone, the price,
Yeah.
and we don't have that. We don't understand what's coming up next, and we
Mm.
should start thinking about that, and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I just on one last note, something I
Mm.
don't understand why it's not happening. I mean, one problem, big issue we have here is actually cooling. Air
Yep.
conditioning.
Yep.
Why is there no movement in that world? Like, why are we not seeing innovation?
There is
You know,
that, and I know these people. I can't remember the name of the company, but they are friends of mine. They have a solar aircon system. So
okay,
it takes solar energy, it banks it, and then you get cool air.
okay,
It exists maybe because at the time when they created this, which was like 2012, uh, cost of production was too high. They couldn't get investments in, and in Malaysia because the purses are very small and the
sure,
purses are very political. So if you don't jive with the right people, you don't get the funding or you don't get access to it. And everybody loses steam at some point. Like, I'm
sure,
here because I lost steam, right? And
yeah,
you can't blame people for trying to live a comfortable life.
mm,
And A lot of these people do these technologies because they believe in the larger cause, and at the same time they also need to stay sane. And if it's not backed, it dies. Do you know that so there's this thing called the sun stove, where it's a tube and
Yeah,
the tray for the cooking goes
yeah,
fits into the tube, and there's a little solar oven. Do you know
yeah,
that the man who made that tube is Malaysian?
yeah. Alex, you know Alex.
Yes.
Yeah,
So that's my point. Malaysian innovation has changed the world in many ways, but we are never backed to do these good
yeah,
projects to get it to scale. In
sure.
Malaysia, unfortunately, if you are unconnected, if you are
Yeah.
nobody, whatever great idea you have will die like a stick in the
Actually,
mud.
that's an interesting point because I've spoken to uh, one was a Malaysian and a couple were expats. So expats are kind of more likely to come in and say, "Hey, we've got this innovation." Like there was this guy, he came up with
Mm,
an innovation on how to harvest palm oil, which should have made a lot of sense. It would have cut the harvest time, it cut the yield, it increased the yield.
mm.
Could he get an uptake on it? He couldn't. He could not get an uptake because the our capitalist system will not spend on innovation.
For them to start composting palm
Good.
oil
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
extract kernels took us 25 years. 25 years.
yeah.
25 years. Do you know we had a real Sain Dabi had a really good sustainability lead who left. He used to come from the Palm Oil Council. Hang on. And
That's it.
he served here for a couple of years, and after doing what he did, he did get some headway, but he also did not get his full wish list out. And we met a couple of times over conferences, and yeah, he was telling me that so much potential.
And then, another interrelated thing is actually design. So just cooling, for example, we solved
So
cooling.
little
We
brain
solved
space.
cooling
No
because of the way
enthusiasm.
our houses were architected, you know,
Yeah,
and we moved away from that. I grew up in that movement. We
yeah,
we lived in a government house which was air cooled, just fan, ventilation,
yeah.
air coming up in all different directions.
The British
Yeah,
colonial Malaysian brick home
yeah,
had a lot of very smart
sure,
rumah
yeah,
kampung vernacular architecture
yeah.
embedded in the bungalow brick house.
Even when it sort of cross hybridized with like Chinese straits architecture, like
Yeah.
those Malong Malacca houses with the atrium in the middle. All it took was that one fan to drag all the air through
What's
from
that?
front to back.
What's that architect out in Sri Lanka that we both like?
Jeffrey Bauer.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a good model. Yeah,
yeah. So that's another sort of component that's missing to make people desire these things.
yeah.
And, I've only
And
ever
that's the
seen like,
last part of the stack, right? So if
yeah,
people like us are investing in the information space,
yeah,
the physical space also needs investment. And in
yeah,
Singapore, it's very visible, right? Biophilia design,
sure.
and intelligent building design to
Mm,
reduce energy costs, to increase in indoor comfort, right? And I think all of this is all part of nature education.
sure.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Hey,
move on
6
to
p.m.
we didn't get to food, which is actually another area. That's something that that is something that we see a lot more trend information on. In fact,
Yeah.
I looked at a piece in the Star about Malaysian let me see, food trends to look out for in 2025 from Malaysian snacks to Hanwoo beef. So food is actually another interesting thing, and I think what I kind of want to add to this is actually the understanding of how trend works. So I'm always looking at how trend works, and I think you've disappeared. Okay, I think I'm gonna just end this because otherwise we, okay.